everybody. Give it up for Robert Anderson with accompaniment by Aspen. I just love that. The sound of laughter at the end of that was just perfect. Gonna go with the flow. I can just listen to that song all the rest of the day. I think I will in my mind. Absolutely. Love this month. Just love the work that our creation team did a few weeks ago when we met. And by the way, everyone is welcome to come to these creation team meetings. It's this incredible collection of ideas and thoughts and passions and energy and consciousness, and so much wonderfulness gets birthed from it, including our topic for this month, which I am having an absolute blast with: spiritual recreation. Recreation. And I love how Robert pointed out that, isn't it cool that we meet in the recreational center? I think that's really neat. Spiritual recreation. So today's talk is go with the flow. Go with the flow. And I want to know, how has your week been? Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. So are we having fun yet? You know, was your week full of fun from what we kicked off last Sunday? Because I know mine was. It was one of the best weeks of my life. It was just, it was amazing. It just keeps getting more amazing. And that's what happens when we come together and we apply, we learn, we explore, we learn from each other and apply these principles to our life. It just keeps getting better and better and better. And so I want to share a little bit about that with you today. We're going to use this incredible metaphor with going with the flow, what the river can teach us. You know those little cards that you kind of see in stores or in tourist locations? Advice from a bear, or advice from a tree, advice from whatever. Have you guys seen those? Yeah? Well, there's an advice from the river. And I just love that. Love, love, love that. So we've got the advice from the river. I've got it summarized up here on a slide for you. So we're going to pop that up real quick whenever he gets it. And I wanted to say, but before I go on to this, that spiritual transformation, going with the flow, you know, I really did, I used to believe this. And because I believed it, I attracted it a lot in my life. But I used to believe that to have profound spiritual transformation, you had to go through like major trauma and major traumatic events and have pain and suffering. That's where you get to the heart of spiritual transformation. And I figured out that I had this embedded belief about that, thankfully, because I'm here to tell you and to prove to you, especially this month, that spiritual transformation comes in all ways. And it can come just as profoundly through joy and through laughter and through play than it does through pain and trauma and traumatic injury. I'm just here to be a witness on that, and I'm sure many of you guys can too. This seems a little high, so I'm going to put it down a little bit because I feel like I'm peering over it to see you. So that's better. So I had some great friends, beloved friends of mine that were visiting us from out of town this whole week, and you got to meet them last Sunday because Ed played the Native American flute during part of our service, and they taught a great Qigong class. Who was here for that Qigong class? It was amazing. It was wonderful. So we got to spend a great deal of the week being in play, and it was just great. And one thing that we had on the agenda is Lori and Ed wanted to go whitewater rafting. Now, let me tell you, I've been rafting many times because I used to take the teens on a 6-day, 5-night rafting trip on the Colorado River through the Colorado and Utah state, but there was never any whitewater. It was all really nice floaty stuff. And I've never been whitewater rafting, but I presume that for the water to be white, there would need to be a reason for that water to be white. And usually that's rocks and fast moving. So I was just a little like, okay, we're going to breathe through this, because they set it up. They made the reservation and everything. And it was class 3. But of course, we know we got a lot of rain last weekend. A lot of rain. So the water was running really high and really fast. So a class 3, kind of, I think it turned into be a little bit more than class 3, but what do I know? That's just what I'm thinking. So while I was doing it, though, I'm going to be sharing throughout this talk the experiences and the wisdom gained and this whole idea, advice from a river. I just absolutely love it. Go with the flow. Immerse yourself in nature. slow down and meander. How many of you guys have meandered lately? Like truly meandered. There's just something really magical about truly meandering. Go around the obstacles. Be thoughtful of those downstream. And today I'm going to talk about how you can also be thoughtful for those upstream. Because those upstream may be your downstream if you stop. You get my flow? So be thoughtful of those downstream. Stay current. And the beauty is in the journey. The beauty is definitely in the journey. So here I go. You know, the river, advice from the river, it started giving us great advice even before we got anywhere near the water, because we had to be at a certain place along the Arkansas River at 12 o'clock. And we took a route that we don't normally travel because it was a more direct route from here to Buena Vista, which is 24. Little did we know that they were doing work on 24 and had many miles of it closed and down to one lane. So we got to experience a little party in the car, which I love. Whenever you hit transportation issues, it's time to have a party in the car. But we were going to be late. A little concerned about that, but you know, we went with the flow. There's nothing we can do about it. It was beyond our control. So we called them, said, yeah, this is our reservation. We're going to be a little late. And they're like, as long as you're here by 12:20, because that's when the rafts leave. We were like, oh, okay. So we did what we could. You know, there's really not much you can do other than just go into consciousness and treatment work and prayer and all that. But I'll tell you, we made it there just in time. But I want to tell you why that's important. It's important because you know how it is when you go outside of your comfort zone and you can feel excited, but you can feel anxious too. You can be like, oh, I'm so excited about what's getting ready to happen, but oh, I'm a little unnerved by what's getting ready to happen. And so this little go with the flow experiment allowed, I can only speak for myself, and I'm thinking maybe some of the others in the car might have felt the same way too. It allowed us to focus somewhere other than our impending fear about what might happen when we're on the water. So it really worked out to serve us quite well, actually. And I know I mentioned last week, you know, I'm an otter. I'm more comfortable in the water than I am on land. So I was really excited about being on the water again, and I think that really added to it too. It was just wonderful. So going back to the advice of the river, you know, rivers can teach us to respect and revere nature and interpret her metaphors as physical proof that we are all indeed flowing in a vast cosmic river of life that empties into a vast cosmic ocean of what we know to be all. Elon Shamir is the one that wrote this advice from the river. And I'm going to start out with sharing what we learn immediately when we get prepared to go into the river. We have our life jackets on, we get our oars, we get assigned to our guide, which was amazing. You know, everything just flows when we surrender and step into that idea of spiritual recreation. We were in a rush and they were all waiting for us. I mean, if you can imagine like 40 people waiting for us to get there. So we had to run in, get our life jackets on real quick, grab everything and go. No time to get nervous or anything about it. But the woman that helped me with my life jacket ended up being our guide. So I thought that was really cool because I already had a sense of familiarity with her, and my comfort level was really building when I got into the raft and I saw that she was there. So that really helped too. So there's this thing that happens when you're going down the river, where you've got the big boulders that causes the White River, and there's these things called eddies. It's where the current curls back upstream, typically along the bank. It swirls around, and if it's fast water and big rocks, it creates a really big swirl. And then if it's littler water and littler rocks, it has a little swirl. But the reason why that's important is because a lot of times you don't realize you're in an eddy. And I think that has a lot to do with life. Have you ever noticed somebody that's so into their story and they just keep telling it over and over and over and over again, and the story never changes, and they just keep, I call it circling the drain. They just keep circling the drain. They don't go down the drain. They just keep circling this drain, never ending. It's kind of like one of those eddies that's like a toilet bowl. And you just wonder, well, gosh, if you change some part of your story, or if you would realize that, okay, the story has given you something. You received the gift from the story, but be able to move on, then you'll be able to move on down the river. But if you get stuck in one of those eddies, you're just going to keep swirling. You're not going to go anywhere. And so that's a metaphor for life. I know that I, in the past, have had my story. How many of you guys have had your story? Yeah, you can definitely get stuck in those eddies. Absolutely. So what I want you to know is I discovered I was stuck yesterday. Yesterday, Saturday, Friday. In one of my manifestations this week, now as some of you may know, I had a car that was on her last wheel, so to speak. She pretty much had everything that you could possibly have wrong with a car, wrong with it. And a few weeks ago, the brakes started going out. And so I would drive her very limitedly and started the massive look for a new vehicle or a new to me vehicle to replace her. And I had appointments, and and time is of the essence here, and my husband and I don't have a lot of time together, and so we were taking our time and the last little bit to go to dealerships, make appointments, go look at cars that I've researched, and nothing was panning out according to what I was holding in consciousness. And so Friday, I went into my prayer and meditation, and I was just like, so what is this all about? What is it that I'm not seeing? And I realized I was in an eddy. You see, my car was my grandpa's car, and I wasn't ready to get rid of it because it was a connection of me to him. He had given me that car years ago, and I was attaching my attachment to my grandfather to my car. And when I realized that, because I didn't even know I was doing that until I got that awareness in my prayer and meditation, I actually was able to work through it and release it. And we had an appointment. All kinds of things happened after that, but we had an appointment to go to a dealership way up in Longmont yesterday. Got up really early, and I did like this releasing experience on the drive up there, because I had to drive my car, and my husband drove his car, because for the last few days, my car wouldn't start. I would go down into the garage, dead as a doornail. We'd jump it, great. When he got home, we'd jump it. Next day, dead as a doornail. And I'd just laugh, because I knew the universe was keeping me off the road, because I knew it wasn't safe. And, do you ever get that time where, the universe says, okay, I'm kind of going to take control of this situation from you here and all that. So it was dead as a doornail. So we got it started, and we drove up and had the appointment at the dealership. I'm doing this incredible releasing ritual in the car all the way up there. There's these songs that I sang, and I just enjoyed that last ride in my grandpa's car. I still get teary when I think about it. I know you probably think that's crazy, but it isn't. It isn't to me. So what happened is, for months, the check engine light was on. And I, of course, got everything checked, and there's stuff that you just couldn't fix unless you put a lot of money into it. Yesterday, the check engine light went out. It was off. It went out, which is awesome, because when you're going to go trade in a car, you don't really want a check engine light on, right? So we get there. I had researched the car I wanted, test drove it, loved it, was like, yes, this is it. This is the one I want to buy. And the guy's like, well, I need to go and take your car for a spin. And I'm the whole time like, please start. I know you're going to start. And it starts right up. And he takes it for a spin, and he's like, oh, you got good tire. I mean, he pointed out all the good things that I had done to it and wasn't really caught up with all the other things. So I just knew I was blessed beyond measure, because I had released it, see. I had done what I needed to do to step outside of that eddy that I didn't even realize I was caught up in. So there's a story about what can happen when you get caught up in an eddy when you're on the river. Now, eddies are good, too, when you're on the river. Because when you're on the river and you're going really fast and you're going over some tumultuous, you can actually go to the next slide if you'd like, tumultuous water, you rely on those eddies, because those are times where you can rest, regroup. You can plan to kind of get stuck in that eddy and be in a time of calm, so to speak, so that you can do whatever you need to do to rejuvenate, regenerate, gather together your sources and rest. And so there's times in life when that happens too, right? Because there's another thing that the river can teach us, and that's patience. You wouldn't think that because it's always flowing. But it teaches us patience as well. So how many of you out there have had times in your life where you've been in an eddy and you know that it was a time that was meant for you to rest, for you to kind of gather your resources, gather your thoughts, kind of get cool with the next time you step out into the current of life, the really fast current of life. What I wanted to say, I wanted to share this quote with you about releasing the car and the attachment with my grandfather and what that was like for me. T.M. Alexander says this: a river can't rise beyond its source. What's in the seed determines the fruit. I couldn't rise beyond the thought that something was my source in regards to a car until I was willing to see it and release it. And then I created a broader idea of what my source was, and I was able to manifest what I was working towards. Does everybody get that? Yeah? Yeah, that's something that came to me on Friday as well. So anyway, back to sometimes it's the best option to take the eddy. Those long stretches of life's turmoil. Sometimes we're happy to be stuck in an eddy, but we don't want to get stuck there too long. You just don't want to stay too long. So I also want to point out that thing that the river can teach us is when you get on the river and you put your oar in the water, it doesn't matter a single bit what your past accomplishments were. That river doesn't care how many degrees you hold or how many times you've gone down it perfectly, because this is a brand new experience and a brand new time, and the river is running at a different speed and at a different level, just like life. And another thing it doesn't know is it doesn't know anything in your past that you presumed as failures. It just takes you in that moment, all of you, the you that you choose to show up in that moment is what you're doing with the river. And so, there's this saying, you never step into the same river twice. You never step into the same river twice. You are always going to be different. And so anything that you may be holding on to and carrying as baggage or past experiences or past beliefs or past thoughts about how you are, how you show up, how you experience life, doesn't matter, because the river of life just takes who you are in this moment. And you can let all that go, because it doesn't have to have an impact. I tell you what, I always get excited to experience, and now get this, I'm excited to experience the person I've become based on my growth from yesterday, or based on my insights from yesterday. I had a lot of insights on Friday, and I grew a lot yesterday. I grew so much I manifested a car of my dreams. That's pretty cool, I think. So I'm always excited to meet who I am now based on what I experienced yesterday. So another advice from the river, and you can just flow through some of these pictures because I thought you might, we of course got these pictures from our trip, had an amazing time. The next thing I want to go over is you don't stress about things you can't control. Great advice from a river, right? So we all pile into this raft and all these other rafts. I think there were maybe 8 in our group, so there were 8 river guides, rafting guides. And they all go over the basic preliminaries. Actually, they do a really good job. In a very short amount of time, you're feeling like you're like a master of this, but they're calling the shots. So they're really good. They're gifted and good, but you never step into the same river twice. So all of their accomplishments, all their skills, all their training, that helps to a certain degree. But just how prepared can you be for when you step into that stream and have a brand new experience? And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because we went through, not this one, but the one after it was a rapid called the Toilet Bowl, and it was a huge eddy that was so strong that they called it the Toilet Bowl, and it kind of goes really strong, and if you don't get yourself out of it, it'll suck you under or push you over. And we did really good. I mean, I'll have you know that through this whole experience, I laughed out loud most of the time. I was in pure joy, laughed out loud most of the time. We turned after we got through the Toilet Bowl because it was pretty difficult, and we were, feeling all good about ourselves, and we turned to watch the raft behind us go through, and oh no, It did not. And it was full of these, burly guys, and there was this burly raft guide that, you kind of felt like he'd been doing this for a long time, and he just seemed to have this sense of great pride, which is tough when you're on the river. Advice from the river. So their raft, it didn't get sucked into, it went over, like sideways, and the whole raft went in the air, and everybody went sprawling. It threw everybody off that raft. And if you can imagine, we're in front, and we're turned and watching this happen, and we're like, oh no, because there were a lot of rapids still to go through, and the river was running really fast. So our guide, we thought that she did this on purpose. We later found out she did not, but we know how that works, right? The universe got our back. So there was this big peak of a rock, and she kind of put the raft up on that peak, and we stopped. I mean, we're in massive, fast river right now. So we all turned our oars the other way to try to get the people to grab a hold of our oars, because people were flying by in the water, and we want to get them out of the water. And they all went by, and they had such fear in their eyes. It was heartbreaking, actually, to see this. We weren't able to grab them, because they weren't able to grab the oars because they were going way too fast. But we did what we could. We were able to grab an oar. But that's it. And so what happened is, of course, later down the river, when they found a smaller eddy where they could rest in, they were able to all get back into the raft. But I want to point out, don't stress on the things you can't control. You can't control that. You might as well just go with the flow, put your feet up in the water, and just let it go, because we can't control any of that. You want to keep your mind focused on the incredible things that you can do in your life, and let those thoughts build you up, and let go of the things that you don't have any control over. Really realize that in the raft. Because down the river, when we were going through another set of pretty hardcore rapids, I'm laughing the entire time. I don't know how to best describe this. We did the same thing the raft before did. We caught it going sideways, and we almost tipped, but everybody knew to kind of lean with the tip, so we didn't tip, but I was on the side and in the center where it dipped. So half of my body went into the river, and I was going in. I was going in. And it was so surreal because I had surrendered to it. I didn't say a word. I was just like, I'm going in. I'm okay with that. My friend Lori had grabbed me, but she didn't have a good enough angle on me to keep me from going in. And she said she was going to have to let go as soon as my head went underwater, because she didn't want to drown me. And it was a really surreal experience because I was really okay with it. In the moment, I was okay with it. Couldn't fight what I couldn't control, and out of nowhere, my husband leaps over, grabs my life jacket, pulls me into the boat. So I did not go in the water, thanks to my wonderful husband. But it was a really good experience for me about letting go of that which you can't control and just surrender to it. Another thing that we can do is witness and apply patience of nature to our life. Like I said, the river has a lot to teach us, and a part of it is patience. So I invite you to stop and reflect on how life surrounds you and moves with patience and peace. We all think life goes fast, but it really doesn't. It's us that goes fast. If we were to stop and just reflect on what's going on around us and realize that there's this perfect pattern unfolding and taking place all the time, life just flows and surrounds us with peace and patience. And if we stop long enough to realize that, then we can become one with that. We can be absorbed into that. And it takes on a whole new feeling. It kind of shifts us. And then we want to keep our river flowing in the direction of our highest potential. A lot of what goes on in the river isn't when you hit the rapids. Those guides are preparing for it upstream. They know what's getting ready to happen. They can see. They're constantly calculating and judging how they need to enter into that. And so what they're doing is they're going to guide our raft into the direction of our highest potential. And I think their highest potential is keeping everybody in the boat, is generally what their goal is. But when we want to flow around the rocks, around the bends, and down the slopes, but we want to keep the river of our life flowing. What happens when we get caught in an eddy? We can get caught in an eddy, and it gets stuck, and things get stagnant. and we just circle the drain, and there's no growth there. You know, there's no joy, there's no passion that happens when we get stuck. But if we're in the flow of life, then we're able to grab life and experience passion and have joy and ride those waves on purpose. On purpose. So you want to ride a wave not on purpose or on purpose? I want to ride a wave on purpose. Not on purpose can get a little willy-nilly. So you follow me there? So what are you taking, where are you taking your river of life? Just think about that for a minute. Where are you taking your river of life? Life is going to have boulders. Life is going to flow at various degrees. Life is going to have eddies. But we get to be on purpose with where our river is flowing. So what would be the ideal place for you to direct your river of life? That's a little bit of a different way to answer that. Just think about that for a second. See, the river is constant. The metaphor of the river is life. It's constantly moving, and it will find its own level always. It will always find its own level. God is constant, and as God's expression, we are constantly moving and expressing all of God's qualities. We will find our own level of expression that is full and satisfying and enduring and joyful when we apply the advice of the river to our life. It's really a wonderful thing. So if you could, oh good, you've gone through all of these. This is awesome. So can you go to the next slide? Awesome. So basically, that was a summary of the advice from the river on the first slide, and now we have the full. Go with the flow. We want to always go with the flow. Be thoughtful of those downstream. But then, like I pointed out, we also kind of have to prepare for those upstream of us too. Because if their raft gets tossed over, they're going to be going by us and they're going to be downstream really quickly. So we can do our part is where I'm going with that. We can be aware and conscious of those upstream just like those downstream. We can understand where it is that we need to show up and be compassionate and show kindness and reach out our oar to help somebody out of the water if they're struggling. We can also be very thoughtful of those downstream, meaning everything that we do has a direct impact on absolutely everyone and everything in this life. We are all connected. So anything that we do in the water right here and now, it's going to have an impact. So what kind of impact do we want to have? We get to make that decision. We get to decide, what kind of impact do I want to have on those downstream? Because if we were to all do that, think about that. Because if we're making decisions that have a positive impact on those downstream, and if we're all doing it, those upstream are making a positive choice that are affecting us. That's how it works. It's this beautiful circle and cycle. If we're consciously aware of what it is that we're imparting into the river of life. Slow down and meander. Love to slow down and meander. A lot of times life gives us the opportunity to slow down and meander. You know, we stayed Monday night at Cottonwood Hot Springs in Buena Vista, and Tuesday morning, you know, we're having a great time. It's actually Tuesday afternoon because checkout is at 1. And the keys got locked in the car when we were packing up. So normally, you know, if you're kind of on a schedule and you got places to go and things to do and you accidentally lock your keys in the car, generally that can bring up some feelings of frustration. It did not. I mean, we were just so happy, and it gave us an opportunity to be and to meander at the hot springs. We had a wonderful time. Ed had AAA, so we were able to contact AAA, and within the hour, they came and unlocked the door, unlocked the car, and it was really awesome. It was a different experience for me, because usually we're rushing out of there. You know, whenever there's checkout, you rush out, you check out, you take off, and it was perfect for me because I wanted to hang out just a little bit longer. So that was an opportunity for life to give us an opportunity to just chill out, slow down, and meander. Following the path of least resistance. Now that's an interesting piece of advice. I know people that always follow the path of least resistance, but with a different intention. So what I want to impart on you is it's all about what your intention is. If your intention is to be consciously aware and completely plugged into the universe and connected to your supply and go with the flow, then there is no resistance. Even the resistance is not resistance. Do you follow where I'm going there? But if your intention is to get off easy and not necessarily be consciously aware and just take the easy road, you're probably going to come up with a lot of resistance most of the time. And it's going to challenge you. I'm seeing some nods out there, so I know you know what I'm talking about. Immerse yourself in nature. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. What a wonderful way to be connected to spirit is when we immerse ourselves in nature. So don't get caught up. I mean, we're coming on the end of summer here. We're in spiritual recreation this month. Do your best to not get caught up in new schedules and new things that you've got to do and get pulled to stay inside all the time. You know, plan to be outside. Plan to connect with nature to the best and highest degree that you can. Delight in life's adventure at every bend. Let difficulties stream away. Live simply and gracefully in your own true nature, moving and flowing and allowing. You know, a good thing about this advice from a river is in order to do that, you got to know who you are. And the way we know who we are is when we're paying attention, and if we're caught in an eddy, we're probably not being who we are. So it's always about being consciously aware. Who are you and who do you wish to be? What if every single time you answered a question? What if every single time you made a choice today and tomorrow and for the rest of the week, the answer to that question supported who you are and who you desired to be? Not who you think your mama wants you to be, or not who you think your partner wants you to be, not who you think your kids want you to be, but who you want to be. Because there is an incredible difference. And I tell you, when you are true to yourselves and you be who you want to be, all those other people are happy too. Trust me. But when you step out of who you really are to please or to satisfy or to whatever, anything and everybody else, you lose who you are. So you need to be true to yourself and who you want to be. It takes time to carve the beauty of the canyon. So let's be gentle and compassionate with ourselves. If you want to affect change in any area of your life, sometimes it takes time. And sometimes that's on purpose. Because we get to grow and evolve and learn so much more about ourselves that allows us to shine and radiate even stronger. So be gentle and kind with yourselves because it takes time to carve out a beautiful canyon. Rough waters do become smooth. There's always smooth waters after rough waters. So if you find yourself in rough waters and you're just not sure if you can hang on, because smooth waters are coming. And don't forget, you can always turn your raft into that eddy. Just don't stay too long. Go around the obstacles. Stay current. I love that one. Stay current. If we're looking at the river as a metaphor for life, I just love it. Maybe it's just me. Get it? The river is the current. So if you stay current, exactly. The river is the current. Life is the river. Stay current. So that stay engaged to life, stay engaged to your life. Watch what happens and what you manifest and create. Watch yourself. And of course, I'm always speaking through my experiences here. So watch yourself and how incredibly magnificent your life becomes. Just like when I gave up that embedded belief that the only way to grow profoundly was through trauma and pain. Holy cow, that's a big one. Let that go. Just watch yourself grow through magnificent joy and beauty and fun times and incredible synchronicities that show up in our lives. Stay current. That's a way to stay current. And the beauty is in the journey. There is no destination, folks. This is the destination. The journey is the destination. There isn't anywhere or anything or anybody or anything that you need to be and do than what you're being and doing right now. This is the journey. Was there another slide after this? Is this it? Okay. So we're going to go into prayer knowing that as we recognize and realize that we're completely connected to our source, we realize that our source is never ending. Our source flows. And we know that as we step into the current of life, we know that we are connected to the divine nature of all beings, the divine nature of all that has created everything seen and unseen. And so we take this moment to truly pay attention and go within, to truly be aware of any areas where we may be swirling around in our own created eddies. We choose to be aware of anywhere where we're not being current with our life. We choose to be aware of any space within us that we need to be gentler and holding compassion, to be patient, knowing that an incredible, beautiful carving is taking place, and that we are always fully supported in every way. We take all this in right here and now, knowing that the absolute best soul and expression of the divine is to express who we truly are, and that the best question to ask whenever we have a choice to make is does this support who I am and who I choose to be? And we know as we step into the river, in this very moment, we take with us who and what we are right now. Nothing in the past matters, and nothing in the future matters. And so we take this advice of this metaphor of being a river, and we take it into our day, and we apply it to our life and all of those around us. And we watch as we step into this magnificent experience and creation that takes place. We recognize and realize that when we step into spiritual recreation, we step into this idea of adventure and play and joy. We start looking around and taking in all of the amazing, abundant beauty that is in life for us to take in. You see, we know that it is our choice. It's there. It's there whether we recognize it or not. And so in this moment, we give ourselves permission to be current, to step into the river, to allow the flow, to be compassionate and kind and gentle and patient, and to laugh the entire way. And so it is with incredible gratitude that I say these words and I feel them in my heart, and I release anything that no longer serves, so that I can embrace, so that I can greet and welcome all of that that is still mine to embrace. So we take a nice long deep breath in as we feel the gratitude of this moment, and we just simply let it go and let it be as together we proclaim, and so it is.